shoppers putting into their grocery bags a roast chicken and a corn on the cob, the lettuce and so on, and then grab a plastic container of sushi and Japanese rolls, maki, and then head for the checkout lane is an astonishing sight. It's really quite an extraordinary thing if you remember when Japan was anything but cool. In fact, Japan was often looked down upon negatively, the stereotypes. So when I started to consider writing this book and began to research what was happening, I was pretty amazed by what I was finding. On the one hand, so many friends of mine who have children of their own have a DVD copy of Totoro by Hayao Miyazaki sitting in their treasured DVD shelves, or other Miyazaki films, Spirited Away, and so on. I would start to see Japanese fashion, street fashion, showing up in American magazines like New York or Vogue. I would start to see these kind of animated bands. Some of you may know Gorillaz, the band from the UK, and they're actually modeled on the idea of an animated pop band, which was being done in Japan back in the 1980s. Some of you even know it's gotten kind of grotesque. There's a show on ABC called I Survived a Japanese Game Show. So it's almost gone too far, maybe some would say, in the direction of trying to embrace what's considered an eccentric and colorfully creative culture many thousands of miles away from here. So when I realized that there actually was this interest in Japanese culture and that the image of Japan had changed in the United States so radically, I began to embark on this book. And my job was to really tell stories about Japanese popular culture. How is it made? Who makes it? Why is it distinctly Japanese, if it is? Some people are not so sure. Some people would tell me, well, it's not really a Japanese thing, it's just happens to be cool. You know, it has nothing to do with Japan. Including my uncle, by the way, who's in his 60s, and he was actually terrified that I was writing a book about anything having to do with anime or manga. He actually said to me, Roland, that's not serious Japanese culture. I said, well, just wait, just hold on. So I embarked on the project because on a personal level, I was so surprised to discover that the image of Japan had changed so much. And the immediate question that I had to answer was why this attraction had happened. Why were Westerners in particular, and in my case Americans, interested in Japan vis-a-vis its pop culture, and how did it happen? How did this start happening? So I'm just going to hit a couple of quick points and then open it up to those of us here on the panel and then to you. One reason that I explore in the book, which is a story some of you may know quite well, is the Pokemon phenomenon. Right? 1996 was a crucial year when Pokemon came to the United States. And I spent a lot of time interviewing the people who made Pokemon from the very beginning, made it from scratch. I talked a lot to the people who brought it over to America. And in fact, it's such a fascinating story because one element of the Pokemon story is actually a lesson for the anime industry. Because they could not read the contract that the American distributor sent to them. One of these thick American legalese contracts, right? It's actually pretty hard for me to read contracts like that, which is why I have an agent. But they couldn't read it, and they didn't have a legal team at all. They didn't have a legal team on the staff. But what they could decipher was that someone in America was going to pay them roughly $10 million, like that, just wire it over there, for Pikachu. But they're little guys, right? They're little pocket monsters. So they signed it. They signed it away. Well, those of you who know how America works, they signed away the subsidiary rights, as they call it in the business, to the Pokemon franchise. They didn't realize this, in fact, until the morning after the weekend that the first Pokemon movie opened in America. And some of you might remember that the opening weekend of the first Pokemon movie, it was #1 at the US box office. Blew everything